In England, in the middle of England, there's a city called Leicester. In this Leicester city, we had a small temple. It was a house, and on the side of the house there was, which was originally intended to park someone's car, it was a garage, and they had converted this into a kitchen. It was Janmashtami, and there was exciting programs going on in the temple room, the living room of the house. And the kitchen staff were joining in the festivities in the temple room, leaving the kitchen unattended. Some fire started, something, very quickly the whole kitchen burned down. Fortunately, no one was injured. But the kitchen was destroyed. So the devotees thought at this time, we should now get a proper temple with proper facilities. There's so many nice temples around the world, we are still in this house. So they started to look around and to see which buildings were vacant. And in Leicester, on the high street, there was one empty building. It was the flagship building of Barclays Bank. Flagship means that when there's a flotilla of ships, there is one big main ship. It's very opulent, it's very big, it's very popular, and this is where they have the flags, on this big prominent. You see this in India. The insurance companies and so on, they have big skyscraper built, big, very, very important buildings. Very impressive buildings to show how prominent and how powerful and how financially solvent they are. Well, this bank was such a building. It was 100 years old. It was a beautiful building with, it was like a temple. It was beautiful. The quality of the stone, the carvings, stained glass windows and chandeliers and wood, mahogany. It was a beautiful, beautiful building. And the devotee said, wow, look at that. Let's ask how much that cost. So they said, how much does this cost? And the bank people, it was empty. They contacted the website. They said, we don't know, it's not up for sale yet. We will put it to the management. So the chief manager of Barclays Bank, the chief executive, he was in London, in the headquarters. And he said, he replied to them, he said, this building, we're going to put it on the market for about £6.5 million, which at the time was $10 million. He said, we want $10 million. So the devotees, they didn't have anything like this. They had maybe $50,000, 100. They were dreaming they could get this building. So they thought, yeah, okay, it's too much money for us. They were looking for something smaller and very surprised how much buildings cost. Buildings are expensive. Anyhow, about a month later, Radhanath Maharaj had been invited to speak in the bank, in the headquarters. There were many Indian traders in the bank, many people who were of Indian origin, accountants, stock exchange traders and so on, several hundred of them, very intelligent, very good workers. They were working for the bank. So they invited him to come to give a talk. The chief executive, who had said the building was $10 million, he went along. He was an Englishman, white man, English-bodied man, and he went with his two deputies. And they were also Englishmen. It was an English bank. They were also there. But they went to show interest in what the Indian workers were doing and some solidarity and this. So Radhanath spoke. About 20 minutes into the talk, the chief executive officer, this Englishman, he said to his secretary, he had this private secretary who was an Indian person. He was actually an Indian devotee, but he did not tell any of the bank his private business, he was just a very good, very efficient secretary. So the chief executive, he said to the secretary, he said, is this person part of the group who were asking about the bank? The secretary said, yes, this is the same group. So the bank manager, he listened for another few minutes, and he said, if this is how these people are, give them the bank. Simply give it to them. They can use it. $10 million building. He was so moved by Radhanath speaking, listening to him for half an hour. He was ready to give $10 million. The Indian devotee, he said, very intelligently, he said, I think it's better to sell them the building for whatever they can afford. Because if a gift, by the time the accountant structured the gift, and so who owns it, what is the lease terms, whereas you buy it. He said, let them purchase it for whatever they can afford. And the chief executive officer of Barclays Bank, big international bank, he said, yes, that is a good idea. He said, but today is Saturday. He said, I want the deal closed by next Thursday. Finished. Get it off the books. He said, because as soon as word goes out that the building is for sale, because we haven't put it up for sale yet, as soon as the word goes out that the building is for sale, he said, then I will be obliged to sell it to whoever bids the most money on behalf of the shareholders. He said, so let us just move it quickly before it becomes public. Just get rid of it. He said, by next Thursday. So the secretary, he called the temple president, very nice devotee, Pradyumna. He called him and he said, you won't believe what's happening. So that same evening, and every day, till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, Pradyumna was going around visiting people who could help contribute. So late on Wednesday night, he called. He said, we have £350,000 cash, $500,000. 5% of the cost of the building. He said, okay, let me tell the boss. So on the Thursday morning, he said to the boss, he said, those people have contacted us. He said, they can pay $500,000, £350,000. So the boss said, good. He said, I want everything finished today. Finish it today. So Radhanath Maharaj was completely instrumental in getting a $10 million donation from an English banker whose business is to make money, and only listening to him for 30 minutes. This is the potency that Radhanath Maharaj has.